Okay, ZBA, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines will remain off. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals work session for September 10th, 2024. We don't have any administrative applications, so we're going to dive right into our post-hearing decisions. The first application this evening to discuss would be Springs General Store, 29 Old Stone Highway in Springs, Suffolk tax map number 300-80-2-1. The size and location is 1.297 acres at 29 Old Stone Highway in Springs. The description is a site plan and natural resources special permit applications to renovate the existing Springs General Store and to install associated parking, fencing, and decking less than 100 feet, but more than 100 feet from wetlands. Revegetation and septic system upgrade are also proposed. Relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town Code. The zoning district is NB, neighborhood business. It's an AE flood zone, elevation 7 and 8, and X flood zones, and the secret class is type 2. And this is in the vice chair's.
Thank you. This public hearing was held July 30th, 2024. The public hearing and record was closed. There were no callers. This site is in the Historical District, the Harbor Protection Overlay District, the Flood Hazard Overlay District, and the Neighborhood Business Zoning District. The property abuts Accabonac Harbor, one of the best preserved and largest coastal wetland ecosystems on Long Island. The only thing before us this evening is to install parking, fencing, and decking less than 150 feet, but more than 100 feet from wetlands. The proposal before us includes removal of all existing permanent structures, except for the driveway, which is less than 400 feet from the wetlands. The project also includes removal of invasive plants and installation of new plants. The application is also proposing improvements to bring the building and site into compliance with the Americans Disabilities Act, including an access ramp and ADA parking details. The survey we are referencing is prepared by George Walbridge, last revised July 14th, 2023. The site plan in our files is prepared by InterScience Research Associates, dated June 27, 2023, dated received July 21st, 2023. The drainage site plan is prepared by TF Engineering, stamped by David Wayne Rhodes, licensed professional engineer, dated 4/25/23, stamp received 7/21/23. The planting plan in the file was prepared by InterScience and is dated 6/27/2023, stamped received 7/21/2023. There is also a project narrative prepared by Michael Shiano, InterScience Research Environmental Planner, last revised July 21st, 2023. That too is in the record. During the public hearing, presentation began with Michael Shiano, and other speakers were John Bennett, counsel for the application, Daniel Bennett, Lisa LaCorey, planner for this project, and 3 neighbors, Michael Kilcoyne, Scott Gilbert, and Bob Licio, all in favor of the application. My concern regarding the removal of trees was addressed, and the only large tree that will be removed is due to the installation of the IA system. Others will not be taken down. The upgrade to the septic system is not required. It is in this case, voluntary. Installation of the applicant's ability to renew the Water Quality Improvement Grant Act they have already approved for. This IA system will be contingent upon getting that additional funding and availability to grant money. But the applicant supports and wants to install an IA system. Lisa LaCorey on this was the planner on this and recommended updating the planting plan. And the applicant was very willing to work with the planning department on that plan. The changes included updating a re-veg with species that are more conforming to wetland habitat. Footpaths on the re-veg plan should be narrowed to further help protect the wetlands. Hand tools, no heavy equipment will be used, and there will be no massive clearing when removing invasive species and replanting. There should be an inspection, as recommended by Ms. LaCory as well, of the project limiting fence and erosion sedimentation controls protecting the wetlands from the construction areas prior to the issuance of a building permit. They will submit these changes with approval by the ZBA Planning Department and also compliance with DEC rules and regulations. This obviously, if approved, will be a condition of approval. The existing improvements are conforming with maximum building and lot coverage requirements in the neighborhood business zoning district, and the proposed re-veg will reduce clearing from 41,790 square feet to 30,129 square feet. Because this site is in a historic district, a harbor protection overlay district, a flood hazard overlay district, and the neighborhood business zoning district, the revegetation was really the key component for me in approving this application. The concerns I had were all addressed at the public hearing, and I think this property is probably more environmentally protected now than it has been in the past. I do appreciate the cooperation and time taken by the applicant to meet the standards of 255-420 of the East Hampton Town Code, and I will be approving this application in its entirety.
Thank you. Ed, you want to go?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Vice Chair, for that a complete kind of description of the situation and what we're dealing with here. I think we start by saying that the Springs General Store site is one of the most sensitive spots we're going to have to look at when we look at these various applications that come in. We know that, as was pointed out by the Vice Chair, that there are a number of restrictions on this area, including being surrounded by wetlands and being in a difficult historic district. I think that when I was going through this and listened to their presentation, which I think was well done, there were several key factors. There is required an RSP, but no variance is required for this. They reducing this lawn, they're taking vegetation that was lawn and turning it to native vegetation. They a little bit of discrepancy on the number, 11,477 square feet or 11,661. I think both numbers were used, but either way, a large area that was lawn will be revegetated with native species. Some invasive species within 100 feet or within 50 feet of the wetlands will be removed and replaced with natives. They mentioned that all existing permanent structures, except for the driveway within 100 feet of the wetlands, are to be removed. And this is a site that had a number of features there that we would have had concern about had they stayed. I think that the new IA system, as was pointed out, while it's voluntary, is an absolute plus here as long as it goes forward. There were some caveats on how it might move forward. They certainly need additional funding, but I think that if that all falls into place, this is a major plus for the environment in that location. They talked about adding new trench drains on the site, and those trench drains would help to gather rainwater and distribute it into dry wells and help with potential flooding in the future. Parking is an issue in this spot. I think that there was I wrote down here, a vigorous and beneficial planting plan was proposed. We spent some time at the hearing going over that and asking questions about it. There were neighbors who had concerns with water access and parking congestion, but neither of those for our consideration. But it's interesting that the neighbor was concerned and thought that it was a positive project, just had a concern about one small aspect of it. I think if we look at this in the overall, as was said by the Vice Chair, this is a net positive to that location. We're going to see revegetation. Hopefully we'll see a new IA system. We're going to see some improvements in many areas, and I think the layout and the planting plan, the removal of the invasives are all a net positive. I don't know there's much else to say. I think Lisa Ligori was very complete in telling us where she came from in terms of their opinion with the planting, when we were at the planning board, and what they're planning on hoping to see how this moves forward. She had those concerns about making sure that we follow on a sensitive site building protocols. I think that they can be done. I think that it seemed as if this was a solid presentation by people who I think were sincerely trying to find a way to use this property in the proper way. So with all those considerations, I agree with the Vice Chair, and I'm willing to approve this application in its entirety.
Thank you. Jane?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with my fellow board members, and I'll just say up front, I will be approving this application, as I believe also that it meets all the standards of the Natural Resources Special Permit as laid out in 255-420. I'll reiterate a few of the key points in that, well, and just also, this is, you know, a very interesting and kind of special application because it's a trifecta of boards, right? It's in our jurisdiction, somewhat limited jurisdiction, then it's, you know, in the ARB because it's a landmark structure and in the Springs Historic District. And of course, it's in jurisdiction of Planning Board for site plan review code requirements. But, you know, looking at it solely from the natural resources standards, taken in total, as was presented to us in the review that Lisa LaCory gave us, the changes the applicant proposes all in will improve overall, I think substantially, the environmental conditions on the site. The applicant's agents did a good job outlining them in detail. I'll just cite a few of them. As we've heard, 11,661 square feet of lawn will be replaced or revegetated with native vegetation. I know some of the materials are still under some discussion between the planning department and the applicant. And I was very appreciative that the applicant was, you know, very positive about working with Lisa LaCory, trust in her. And then, you know, so I think we can have confidence that that re-veg plan will come out very nice, and it will also enhance the vegetative buffers along the water and the wildlife habitat buffers as well. In addition, we spent a good amount of time discussing their methods, you know, for the removal of invasives. And again, I think they, you know, we asked a lot of questions, they thought through it. I came away feeling very comfortable that there's not a lot of risk being created because they're going to use mostly methods by hand and, you know, not machinery. I would like to see that, even though they've explained it, I would like to see it written down and, you know, put in the file as a condition of approval. And then the septic system will be upgraded to low nitrogen. I, of course, do see it as a voluntary thing, although, quite frankly, it would be hard to really see anyone wanting to move forward on this incredible sensitive property without making that upgrade. But I do understand that it is more mitigation than it is required. And also the setback of the septic system, in addition to being an upgraded system, will improve, I think he said, to 223 feet from wetlands. And lastly, one of the issues I raised around the vegetation plan was its comportment with the parts of purposes that are part of the Natural Resources Special Permit that relate to preservation of historic vistas, and specifically, it's in the code, the connection of these sites in the historic district to the harbor. And then Daniel Bennett got up and spoke to that, and I thought he was compelling in his answer. So I trust that that will be preserved. Just the one thing I wanted to ask if we're going to talk about, I know Mr. Bennett asked the board to sort of weigh in our determination that they be allowed to apply immediately for a building permit. I think he said upon our approval. And I just wanted to raise, I wouldn't be comfortable taking that step. I don't think it's in our jurisdiction to do it. Number one, it has to go back to the ARB. And it was revealed to us, and I don't believe it was known before to the ARB, you know, this whole historic structure is going to be lifted off the foundation. And I would imagine the ARB is in their jurisdiction and will want to have a discussion about the protection of it, who's going to do it. So number one, I think that should be iterated first. And secondly, the planning board, I think, is lead agency and ultimately has the jurisdiction of site plan, and they haven't had their public hearing yet. So I just want to say, from my perspective, I'd love to hear what everyone else says. I wouldn't be comfortable, writing that in or advocating for that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry?
Okay, do you have to say anything?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say a few words. Mostly, the interest for me was the main interest. Everything was interesting. I think Lisa LaCory did an excellent job, and page 2 of the TAM that was written clearly lays out all the setbacks that were in. The only thing that was less than 100 feet from wetland were things that were being removed, which was a plus. And as far as the planting plan, it looks very robust. There are a few recommendations that Lisa has, for that also. And yes, there was discussion on planting plan mostly as far as with the removal of the invasives and how they're going to not disturb the plants that are not being removed. And actually, I forgot his name that spoke, but he did point out on like areas 1 and 5, they would have to do some manual removals according to the planting plan. If you look at the zones they had laid out, zones 1 and 5 would have some of the plants that would fall into the category of completely manual loppers but no power machinery. And then in zone 3, that they might need a cherry picker or a small device, but no large skids or anything like that to removal. So that was all a plus. I believe they are going to update the final plan after approval. And I too, as far as the septic system, I think it's great that they're offering the septic system, but I too am not comfortable with okaying that they get a building permit prior to the renewal of their water quality grant, if it in fact expires. But other than that, I think it's all good. I think, the applicants did a great job, as well as the planning department, and I'm going to approve this if it meets all the NRSP standards.
Thank you. I agree. I think this will render the Aquonic Harbor environmentally in a better condition. Actually, I think there were 2 conditions they were seeking.
Yeah,
They were
there was
seeking for a condition of the septic system based on the grant, and they were seeking we condition them allowing a building permit. So I'm not uncomfortable either conditioning either one of those on here. I'm hoping the process through the rest of the process of the town goes efficiently enough, because I think their concern was the grant. I hope the town renews their septic system here, because it is a great benefit to the environmental condition of the to Aquonic Harbor. And I imagine they can try applying for a building permit, but to condition it, I think, is a stretch for the zoning board. So,
I agree.
I agree.
so I'm willing to approve it. Council, we good? Yeah. Thank you.
Excuse me, 1 second, ZBA. Member Berger, can you please aim your microphone more towards you? Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Just facing the other way.
All right, next on our agenda is Howard Lansner at 10 Dominic Court in East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-165-5-8.14. The size and location is 42,814 square feet at 10 Dominic Court, Oak Forest Manor, Lot 14, map number 7882, East Hampton. And the description is to allow an existing 676 square foot detached garage to remain larger than the maximum allowable gross floor area of an accessory structure. The relief sought is one variance of 76 square feet is required from 255-1123 of the town code to allow the existing detached garage to remain with a gross floor area of 676 square feet, where 600 square feet is the maximum allowable, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A residence, Zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And this was in my area, so I'll leave this off. The applicant is Howard Lanzer. The hearing date is 7:30, and the premises, it was located at 10 Dominic Court. It was represented by Trevor Darrow. The application is to allow a variance of 76 square feet above the 600 square foot allowable to remain. This would be a result of a 12% variance. The survey was 8/22/23 and the plans 9/1/22, which were submitted as part of a building permit, which was dated 10/22, building permit number 73-511, which included the 676 attached garage with a second-story living space above it. The owner decided during the construction not to attach the garage, and also to eliminate the living area above, which created the need for the variance. There was some debate between or questioning between Mr. Darrell and the board regarding precedent and how that is to be applied. Ultimately, where I land on this is, I look at this as the building permit was given for a 676 square foot structure. The fact that the breezeway is not there and attached and now they're before us is not increasing or increasing the impact on the land. And in fact, overall, it's a decrease on the impact on the land because of the second floor area also being eliminated. I'm going to then go through the variance standards, and I'll go through it and read through it that way. So I look at it as, does the benefit of the applicant from the grant of the variance outweigh any detriment which grant of the variance will cause to the general health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or the town as a whole? And I do think it does outweigh any detriment to the neighborhood, and the reasoning being because the impact on the particular property does not exceed that which was originally given, other than it being a now detached accessory structure, but the impact on the property to the neighborhood is not being affected. Is the area variance to be granted a maximum variance necessary and adequate to alleviate the difficulty causing the applicant to request an area variance, while at the same time preserving and protecting the character of the neighborhood and the general health, safety of the town as a whole? I say yes as well, because the minimum, I said maximum, it's actually the minimum. I say yes because it is, well, he could always connect the garage, but I think at this point it makes it more difficult to do that. So in this case, I do think it does, and I think it also does protect the character of the neighborhood, because again, this building permit was granted with that accessory structure there in size. So I do not think it has another impact on the neighborhood. Has the applicant shown that the benefit accruing to him from grant of the requested variance outweighs any harm which will be caused to the neighborhood or the town, and that the variance requested is the minimum variance needed to alleviate his difficulty while safeguarding the character of the neighborhood and the general welfare of the town? I agree as well that they did do this for the same reasons I mentioned. Will the grant of the variance cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, or will it create a detriment to nearby properties? And it will not, in my opinion, as for the same reasons I stated. And the benefit sought by the applicant be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Yes, if he built the breezeway and connected it as a building permit asked for, but that is not the case in this area. Is a requested area variance substantial? No, this is a 12% variance on the GFA of a garage of a detached accessory structure. It is not a substantial, and it does not, again, for the same plate, increase the impact on the property. Will the grant of the variance have adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood or the affected area of the town? This is not affecting the environmental impact at all on the property or this area. There is no NRSP required. Is it difficulty causing the applicant to request an area variance self-created? And obviously that answer is yes. With that, I will seek to approve this application. Let's go next. Denise?
Sure. I agree with Chairman Deline. With regard to the TAM, I too was a little bit confused at having to ask for more construction versus less. That was kind of surprising to me. I think the 76 square feet as built, this is an attic, pull down stairs, no longer will be used as habitable space. I think the applicants have solar panels, geothermal, IA system. They have been very mindful of the development of the property in a beneficial way to the environment, which what they're doing is not increasing, as Chairman Deline noted, the impact on the land. The property is not near maximum GFA for the residents, max lot coverage, or total lot coverage. I think this appears, from my view, to be a minor request. When you think about what they could do, they could build a over 5,000 square foot house. So they now have habitable, they have not going to now have habitable space, which was originally proposed. They're not seeking to add any additional structures. This is not visible from the street, so it will not change the character of the neighborhood. The neighbors are in support of this. I believe the letters are in the file. I do not believe this will have a negative impact on the neighborhood or the environment. So for these reasons, I am going to approve this application.
Thank you. Ed?
I'm in agreement with my fellow board members. I thought that we brought up that night, I know I asked the question, why not just build a breezeway and eliminate the variance? That's the first question you'd ask in something like this. Why are you in front of us? You don't have to be in front of us. You got approvals for something and you didn't follow through. But the net here is much in line with my thinking with both the chair and the vice chair. We'd be asking for more construction rather than less, a greater potential impact on the environment. I do think there's the question of allowing a 76 square foot variance here, getting away from our 600 square feet, which we try to hold these to. But I also think one of the benefits here is that elimination of that living space in the garage is something that becomes a net benefit to the town as a whole. We're not increasing density in an area with a potential apartment. And so, although that's a potential, was something they could have done, they've chosen not to do it. To me, I think that reading through, as you did, Mr. Chairman, the standards, I agree with your analysis of it, and I don't think that this is causing a net negative in any way, and I think there's a benefit for us to approve the application and approve the variance here and to move forward and allow the structure to stay it is. So I'm going to agree and approve this application.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, well, I too am going to approve it. I do think Trevor Darrell did a good job in the presentation. There was some bantering back and forth about, precedent and other locations. However, I think overall he did do a good job on that. And I guess I believe the story that they just got to that point and then decided they liked the view, and I can kind of relate to that. They did, the house is net zero, which also impresses me, but, they had the building permit and they could have done it and they just decided they didn't want to. So I too think it meets the standards. I don't think it's going to cause an undesirable change. And then there were a few approvals that this board had made, in other instances, but those approvals were both much larger numbers than this one, 76 square feet. And it is an attic with the pull-down steps used for storage. So I too am going to approve this. I was just wondering though, is there something we should get a CNR on that they do not make that into living space in the future?
But that would be illegal. It's not allowed in the code, so asking for a CFR is kind of redundant, in my opinion. Right, so it's just not allowed, and would make it, if they did it, it would be illegal, and they wouldn't be able to get it anyway.
Now they already had a permit that said they could do it.
If it's attached.
They would have to attach it.
Now it's a
right?
detached, it's a different animal if it's a detached.
Okay, so that was my one thought, that maybe we should get a CNR on that.
I did too, Terry.
But
but I,
If you
again, the
insist, nobody will pick
analysis,
up. Okay.
the chairman
But I
did,
am looking
yeah.
to approve the application.
Thank you. So I too am going to approve the application, although I had a little rockier road getting there as I was assessing what's going on here. And, you know, one of the first things I do want to state is that, you know, it's not that the owners just made a decision during the construction that they wanted to make revisions to the plans, eliminate the additional living space, and the two-story breezeway. That's all well and good. The issue that I, you know, had to consider more closely is whether they wanted to do it, that's fine. However, there was a town-issued building permit that they are beholden to, and there is recourse if someone wants to make a modification. And they circumvented that, and they created a nonconformity that violates the code, as, you know, because the applicant's agent says they thought the living quarters on the second story looked nice. And, you know, for me, I just can't necessarily walk away from that. And that, you know, when you get to the issue, is something self-created? Yes, it is self-created, but I weigh that factor even more because it was sort of purposeful. The other thing was this issue of what was suggested in the TAM, and we talked a lot about, you know, why would the applicant not cure the need for the variance or eliminate it by adding the breezeway? And the applicant's agent counsel gave us a number of reasons, none of which I felt were really valid to say why they couldn't do it. One was factually incorrect, that it would now count the garage GFA to the house. That's not true. It's a good thing because they didn't build the stuff on top, or they're not seeking another detached garage. I think that's all well and good, but we don't know what's going to happen in the future, and I don't think that's really part of the standards. And also, you know, the code requirement, again, one of the standards. Where is it? Sorry. Whether are there, you know, alternative methods, something feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. And again, I don't think that the burden's on the applicant to prove that, and I just didn't find that they really established it. But all in, even though I was leaning to disapproving this application, I'm a realist, and I don't necessarily think that as a board, I can actually compel someone to build something that they don't want to build. And I also can't compel them, if we don't grant the variance, to like take the garage apart and cut 76 feet off. That just would create a hardship. So at the end of the day, you know, the balancing of all the factors didn't quite get me there, but the reality is the garage is there. This is, I think, a very unique situation, and whether, you know, president is in or out, I do think we can describe it as not, you know, that we're willing to give out a lot of variances on the size of accessory structures. A different covenant that I wanted to ask about is, could we not say that the next 600 square feet accessory structure that gets built on the property has to be 76 feet below that maximum?
I don't think so.
I think it's a stretch.
Okay. There you go, then I'll approve it.
But it is a uniqueness. That's a good point.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
It's not just going to cut off 76.
I mean, it was, you know, once they said they refused to do the breezeway, even though I thought the reasons were not good, I can't compel someone, you know, to do it if they don't want to do it. So.
Thank you.
I'm recused from the next decision application, so I'm going to step out.
Council, we good on that one? Thank you. Next, we have Marham Hotel.
Oh, Maram's next? No,
Wait a minute, that's next, right?
no.
Nope.
Oh, we have
Eichler, Newton. Yeah, okay.
You want to go home too?
Gabrielle Eichler and Douglas Newton at 73 Mako Lane in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-175-6-34.1. Size and location is 12,000 square feet at 73 Mako Lane, Beach Hampton, Section 5, Block 32, lots 35 through 38, map number 1763 in Amagansett. The description is to construct a 178 square foot swimming pool with an additional 297 square foot of decking and pool fencing on a parcel of land containing wetlands, dewland, and beach vegetation. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 3 variances are required for this application. Variances of 41 feet, 9 feet, and 1 foot are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to construct a proposed pool fencing 59 feet, decking 91 feet, and swimming pool 99 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, and the elevation is 10, and secret class is type 2. And Ed, I think you did the report on this. so-
Yes, thank you. The board will remember that the hearing for this application was held on August 13th, 2024. We were working from several surveys. We had surveys on file from 9/28/23 to 7/24, but the one we were working from that was most recent was July 25th, 2024. They were all from Gary Bent's surveying. There have been a previous administrative approval for the project that was approved and issued on April 12th, 2023. And at that time, the survey that accompanied that approval was from October 2nd, 2022. With that, on that survey was a planting plan that was approved with the initial administrative approval, and that's how that application moved forward at that time. This requires, as was mentioned, 2 variances, one of 9 feet, one of 1 foot, and it requires an NRSP. Oh, by the way, they were represented by Andy Hammer, who was here on behalf of Lighthouse Land Planning that night. A lot of the factors here, this was about moving a pool of, was it 3.5 feet? We were moving it so there was more room under the house. It brought it out so it was flush with the outside of the house. We saw that. One of the factors here within the original administrative approval, there was a house that was in 59 feet of the wetland, so that this project is one where the house is pushed absolutely as far to the road as it could be to get it as far from wetlands, so that the entire project, even if this is approved, is still a great improvement over the original setting of that house. It's all in a net positive. The pool was of question. The pool is 6.5 feet wide by 19 feet long by 5 foot deep. The bottom of the pool is set about 2.6 feet above groundwater, which is a concern for us, at the elevation of approximately 6 feet, where groundwater is at 3.4 foot elevation. The top of the pool is to be set at about 4 foot above existing grade, so that it'll be flush with the deck, so that there is a reasonable buffer here between the bottom of the pool and the groundwater. It's not a large pool, and it was previously approved. We're only talking now about moving it to a new location. There's a scenic easement on the in the back 20 feet of the property on the east side of the property. The deck was described as being put here and then increased in size from 350 square feet to about 650 square feet as a replacement of lawn, that the rest of the property would be planted out for native species. Let me see what else I have here. There'll be no additional clearing with this. The fence and the easement, the fence at the easement requires our approval, but I think that given the layout here and the planting plan, I didn't have a problem with that. There's a neighbor had a complaint about whether or not this was going to affect them, and we looked at the layout of their property, and it was a kind of an extended rear, very far from their house. And even though they had a concern, I think that their fears were allayed at that time. I thought that what we were asked to do here, there was a question that was posted in the TAM and brought up immediately. Would we have approved this if it was brought to us at first? When it first brought to us, if this pool was that many feet over, would we have approved it? That comes to us often. We have to ask ourselves, would we have approved this change that's being asked for in the new application? And I looked at this and said, I would have approved it. I would have approved anything that brought the house further from that 59 initial feet. It's not a large request. I do think it takes, we have to give it the concern and the due diligence to look this over carefully. But we're moving in a very small amount. I don't think we're doing any additional damage, no additional clearing. And I'm not worried about a precedent in this because I don't think that this is a very individual and somewhat unique situation. So for me, I did not have a problem with it. I realize that there is still, we are improving 2 variances. They're very slight given the circumstance and where they are and the difficulty of building near this so close to the wetlands. And then in terms of I got the wrong thing. Hold on here. In terms of the standards, under 255-8-50, whether the grant of the variance will cause unreliable change the character of the neighborhood, I say no. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance, I don't think it's that large in a request that number, letter B here on this is a question bothers me. No. Whether the request of the area variance is substantial, the answer is no. Whether the grant of the variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood, I say no. And then under 255-551 RSP standards, whether the preservation of natural resources and whether or not no natural resource feature or system designated under 255-4-12 will be diminished in size, polluted, or degraded, and I say no. Whether alternative or reasonable uses of the property are determined not to exist, I don't have a problem, and alternative designs entailing smaller buildings, we could insist that it stays in the same place. I don't have a problem with the small movement of the pool in terms of having any real environmental impact. Then under 255-540, compatibility is the site of the proposed a suitable one for this location. I think it is compatible with that. And whether any natural characteristics of the site will be in any way harmed or potentially diminished by this structure. And I say that the best has been done in this case for it to be allowed. I don't think it was a large request. I think that there was always this caution coming in, looking for a change to what was already had an approval in a very recent past a year ago. But I buy into the idea that it wasn't an awful lot to ask and it was an improvement on their living conditions. So I'm going to approve the application.
Thank you. Denise?
Thank you. I agree with member Johan. I think the proposed project is a fairly small change to the already approved improvements, and the requested variances are minimal. There is no additional clearing. They've agreed to relocate the pool fence 20 feet from the eastern rear yard property line. They've agreed to the scenic easement proposed by the planning department. I think overall, the site is environmentally more sound than it was with the previous decision. And I think we should condition the revegetation that had been included in the previous administrative approval. If this does get approved, I think between the scenic easement and the revegetation plan that was part of that previous administrative approval, I think if we do that, environmentally, this property will be sound. So won't go through all the standards again. Member Johan did an excellent job with that. I'm going to approve this application in its entirety.
Thank you. Sarah?
Okay, I don't have that survey. My fault, I never got it. 72324, is that what we're looking at up there?
25.
So can somebody show me the pool fence? Because I don't see a pool fence on this survey that I have. So that's pretty far away from the pool.
Yeah, it's not really where the project will be.
Okay, so that doesn't require a variance for a pool fence?
But was that approved in the original? This is almost like a modification, is it not?
I don't know,
Is it in the notice?
No.
no.
No, but the question was it part of the original? Huh? Well, it might have been, is why it's not noticed.
We do have that survey. I could pull it up.
Is that this survey? Was this from the
What
NRSP?
date is it?
8/12/2021.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna see where I stuck it.
Pretty sure it's in the notice.
I don't know, it wasn't on the application.
I think I called it after the makeup might have gone out and added the.
Okay, well, it's not listed anywhere, but, so that, again, it doesn't require a variance to be that far away from, not closer to,
It says,
Yeah, it is,
but pool fencing is noticed.
yes, it is.
it is
Yeah,
noticed,
right there.
Yes, it's right here.
So the fencing was 59 feet.
59 feet. Okay, I would like to see that closer. But,
Yeah. Yep, there it is. So it was corrected, Tyler, you're right.
Okay. And then the scenic easement covers what area?
It's the one as suggested in the technical analysis memo.
It was 20 feet.
20 feet.
From the back of the property, which is 7 feet, the other side.
I'm sorry?
It's 25 from the property, which is 50 feet from the other side. So it's a
Okay, and so the fence is right on the border of the scenic easement?
Right on the CD, on that thing.
I would like to see that fence moved maybe 10 feet back from the scenic easement. It's certainly for a
We did not
pool.
discuss that at the hearing, right?
No.
No,
It would be a problem.
well, because none of it was written here. All right, well. I will approve the NRSP for the pool and the deck of the 9 feet and the 1 foot, reluctantly, but I will approve it. And I think it will meet the NRSP standards. But I guess I'm going to deny the variance for the fence.
Thank you. I think I'm in agreement with Vice Chair and Member Johan. I don't think I have to go in depth. I think it was covered well enough. I think the impact on this is minimal. And I also think the zoning board would have looked at this and
Maybe.
approved it. You know, I might say that we might have deliberated on the thing, so I will give you that. But at this point, I think I'm in agreement with the scenic easement. I think it offsets,
re-veg.
and the re-veg offsets that. But I also do agree with, and I think is the conditioning the original re-veg of
Yes,
this. I
from
do
the
agree with that.
administrative, yes.
Yeah. All right. Good. You good, counsel? Next, we have Maram Hotel at 21 Ocean View Terrace in Montauk, up at tax map number 300-49-6-26. The size and location is 82,087 square feet at 21 Ocean View Terrace in Montauk. The description is to construct 5 poolside cabanas at approximately 361 square feet each, within 35 feet, 11 inches of the top of bluff. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 1 variance is required for this application. 1 variance of approximately 114 feet, 3 inches from 255-430C of the Town Code is required to allow The cabana is to be constructed 35 feet 9 inches from the top of bluff, where 150 feet is required. The zoning district is B residence, BE flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And who did the report on this?
I did
This
this
is
one.
you, right? Go ahead.
Mhm. Okay, so this hearing was on August 20th of 2024 for Marham Hotel, 21 Ocean View Terrace. The agent was Lori Wiltshire of Land Planning Services. The survey that we had was dated February 8th, 2024. The variance, it's an NRSP and variance of 114 feet 3 inches from 255 430C, 35.9 feet from the top of the bluff, where 150 feet is required. Okay, this location, this Marham Hotel, has a long history in the town. It was originally Ocean View or Atlantic Hotel, I believe, is a pre-existing non-conforming at the time. There's a lot of history that goes back until about 2016, and I realize I just didn't bring the property card. This is the longest property card I've ever seen in my life. It's about 9 pages, I believe, all from 2018 or 20 or so when Marham took over. There's a lot of history with it, as everyone probably knows. There was stop work orders and a lawsuit of the town against the hotel, and there was a stipulation of settlement, I think in 2023. Again, I didn't bring the card with me. Anyway, so this application is for a very large variance for the crest of the bluff and an NRSP. So as far as this is for 5 cabanas that are to be built near the pool, in the pool area in front of the pool bar. And they are each 8.5 by 8.5. Now, I did note a slight difference on the survey. It shows them as 8 feet by 8 feet. But the applicant said the agent did say it's 8.5 by 8.5, so slight difference. All the discussion, there wasn't much discussion, but all the discussion revolved around the fact that, and then in the TAM, that the improvements are proposed on already improved locations, and that the planning department feels that there would be no negative environmental impact on them. And I agree with all of that. One thing, now as far as the variance, it's a huge variance. And that I am looking to approve it, but again, with some reluctance. I don't want, I'm concerned that they could come and ask for more, and then, could we somehow say that they can't ask for anything else? These were going somewhere. You see the CHA line on the survey there, and so there is still room on the landward side of the CHA line for them to come in and ask for other items. I don't know. And the other thing I was concerned about as far as the NRSP was, I don't know what they're made out of. If they're...
Yeah, I did. They're
Did you see? I didn't see where they were wood.
I think I'm not sure if they're wood. There might be an aluminum structure. I looked into this when I was doing it, because I was concerned whether or not these were roof structures or not, which they're...
Well, they're going to have a material on the
Yeah, but it
roof,
doesn't
but there's
classify it as
some kind of slats.
Right, it's
But
a
it
trellis type
takes
of
it away
system,
from lot coverage is
That's
what that does, yes.
which was a concern of mine.
Yeah,
So,
but I didn't see what they were made out of and looking at the plans for them. So I guess
I'll look it up while you talk.
yeah, if you can find it. I couldn't find it on here.
These structures these are usually like prefab aluminum, like, huh?
There's the point.
But there's a plan up there he's got.
Yeah, that's a
up there.
plan.
Yeah, he's looking at it.
Oh, they probably, they had a material list on that, Tyler?
They do?
Yeah.
You see part numbers, but it doesn't tell me what they're made out of.
Those are-
The slats are actually Grandis wood, they're wood.
So what is Grandis wood? I guess my
It's
concern
a
was that there's
species-
some
it's
kind of a
species wood.
chemical,
Grandis is a species. No.
chemically treated wood. So I
No.
would like to stipulate that as a condition of the.
Grandis is a
approval.
species. Red Grandis is, I've done this, I've used this before. It's a special species, but it's not a treated wood.
Okay. As far as the standards, yes, it is a huge variance request. As far as alternatives, I don't know, they have plenty of other space farther north on the property. There's another sitting area on the opposite side of the pool bar. But I guess that wouldn't be cabana-like. I am going to approve this. I think it's not going to have a detriment to the town or immediate neighbors. And I do think as far as the NRSP, there'll be nothing detrimental. Like I said, I do want to add a project condition that there is no chemical treatment in any of the construction materials on it. And also with the awning or whatever, the sail over the bar, they have to remove that after a certain period of time in the spring. I would like that condition, like that to be done also
Is that
with the
part of the STIP?
material roofs.
Would that be part
Yeah.
of the STIP?
Yeah,
So is there a condition on when they should do that, or?
yeah, it runs from May 15th to October 15th, I think it said. Then they have to take that down. And so I think I would like that same condition for the materials of the roofs on this. Is that something we could do, or that goes back to the planning department, planning
It's
board to
interesting.
say?
It's beneficial for them to remove it from a wear and tear point of view. I think we probably could condition that.
Okay, well, I would like to
What do
do
you
that
think?
then for the same date,
It has to be-
Well,
the material on the roofs.
what material it is.
it's just a sailcloth, not the structure, just a sailcloth that's on the roof. Similar to what the STIP talks about over the bar. I don't know, I
I don't know
mean,
if
is there a
that's-
reason we're asking for it to be
Is it-
removed? I
where's
don't
the
think it's a
nexus
sightly
to that?
thing. It's not, you don't,
Well, it could be damaging the
Typically-
wind and create,
yeah,
Look
but
somewhere else.
that's a function of their, I don't know, we can have opinions on that. We can go around and talk about that. Jane, you want to go
Okay.
next?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to just dive right into the variance standards. My fellow board member gave the full background. So I'm going to start with A, whether grant of the variance will cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or will create a detriment to nearby properties. And I'm going to combine my discussion on that with D, whether the grant of the variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or in the affected area of the town. So with respect to A, I cannot conclude that the application meets this standard, though many outstanding issues of the owners of though many of the issues the current owner of this property has relative to nearby properties have been settled in court, the history of disturbance of the surrounding neighbors and properties cannot be sliced out of our consideration, in my opinion. At least 8 neighbors, members of the public, wrote and spoke about concerns of potential undesirable change and possible detriment as a result of this application. Now, whether or not we at this point know for sure if this number of cabanas will create any disturbance, unfortunately, in my eyes, the applicant's agent never addressed these surrounding concerns or this part of the code, and they could have discussed, what restrictions there would be or protocols or anything. But I think that they failed to create any confidence that based on their history and based on the neighbors' concerns, that I can say these 2 standards are met. C, whether the requested area variance is substantial, as we've already established. A yes, not only on paper at 114 feet or 76% is definitively substantial, but even more so when we consider that it's in, I believe, a VE flood zone, it's close to the Sea line, and basically it's very close to one of the most incredibly vulnerable shorelines we have in this town. Member Berger's field report, showed that beach. It was just restored for millions and millions of dollars, and so granting 114 or 76% variances in an area like that is very substantial, and I take that into account as I assess the variances standards. Whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Though I understand that a majority of the property is non-conforming to bluff top or bluff crest setback, nothing at all was presented by the applicant to establish that, if not eliminating the need for the variances altogether, that the cabanas couldn't reasonably be placed somewhere else on the property that would reduce the variance requested substantially. And therefore, I feel that this application also fails relative to that standard. And also with respect to the benefit sought by the applicant, I was waiting for the applicant's agent to talk about what the real benefit is, and there was really nothing forthcoming except that they seem to want them, and I think they were described as just places to lay back and relax and drink cocktails. So all in, I'm going to deny this application on the basis of the variance standards, so I won't even proceed to the NRSP.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah. We tried to visit this site, and it's right down in a residential neighborhood, and so there is concern about anytime any changes are made, how will it impact it? We found it impossible to park and impossible to approach, but it's a pre-existing, as was mentioned by Member Berger. This has a long history, has a recent history with new ownership, but even before that, this has always been really plunked, unlike a lot of others, right in a residential neighborhood, houses immediately to both sides of it and across the way. So that is always a concern. I thought that there were several reasons why I would lean towards approving, and I'll go through those. I think that all the improvements are landward of the Sea line, although close, but they are landward of that. The cabanas would be existing on deck, a legal deck, legally installed at this point. It does have approval, so they're not asking to change the lot coverage. The lot coverage is not to change at all. The planning department said they anticipated no substantial environmental impacts from the addition of these cabanas. So the cabanas are 8.5 by 8.5 feet, and we've just had a discussion previously here, initiated by the chair, about the composition of them and what they look like and how sturdy they may be. There are very neighbors' concerns about additional potential use of the cabanas, but I'm wondering what we can do about that. We're not approving it for rental use. We're not approving it as a potential extension of the restaurant use. We're just approving it as a cabana if we approve it. And if that's to happen, doesn't that come into the purview of other departments here in terms of enforcement and other types of inspections that would have to go on? So I'm less bothered by that because I'm not sure we have much control over it. We're not looking at approving an extension to a restaurant. We're looking at approving these cabanas. He mentioned in that any construction protocols would be observed, whatever construction materials would come down this one access driveway and be brought out of there. Of course, that's to their benefit as well. I don't know how I appreciate the comments of Member Mirren, because I do think this is a substantial, and I think it gives us pause. But we already see improvements in the area where this is, so it's not like we're pushing out and moving away and then asking for this enormous. I would not be approving a cabana if it was not on the deck. I would not be considering it. But I think that we're in a position here where they're asking for these cabanas. There is a potential that something else, the neighbors' concerns are realistic. They could be used another way. I don't know that we're in a position to do anything about that. All we can do is either approve or not approve what's put in front of us. So I'm not as bothered by some of the aspects of it. I think it's a great ask in terms of a variance, but what's there is a given already. This is existing at a spot. Sensitive, recently rebuilt. I think all the hotels in Montauk are going to be looking at this as a reality in the future. And with all those concerns, nonetheless, I think the reality is that this does qualify in my mind for an approval, and I'm willing to approve it at this time.
Okay, Denise?
I understand the concerns Member Berger expressed and Member Mary. But I think this is a unique situation in a sense that the cabanas are sited they're sited already. They will be on top of an existing deck next to a pool, and both of these are legally existing. And yes, I agree with you. If they were not going to go on a legally existing deck, I would have more of an issue with this. The cabanas are modest in size. The survey did not include any disturbance to nearby vegetation or natural areas. And in terms of a natural resource special permit, we would be looking at that. If it obviously did cause damage, that we would take that into consideration. The cabanas are located landward of the coastal erosion hazard line, and of course, I'm in favor of that. The total lot coverage is not going to change, and the planning department as well does not anticipate any substantial environmental impacts. The cabanas are going to be situated on existing decking in the interior of the lot, so therefore will have no impact on the neighborhood. So without repeating what's already been said, I am going to be approving this application.
Thank you. I'm also in agreement on approving the application for the reasons stated. I don't think I need to go into further detail, although I do want to revisit what Member Berger brought up in conditioning it. I don't know if conditioning it is the right, I would suggest maybe the zoning board in our determination put a concern of any further development on the south side of this hotel as far as impact. Maybe we can just state that concern. I don't know if we have that.
Can that be in findings of fact?
To condition it. But I would say, yeah.
It's been in determinations in the past, nothing further closer to the water or something, we've had that kind of thing. So something similar to that, I don't want them.
What does council think?
You couldn't say they could never get another variance anywhere else.
Right.
They could still apply for a variance. I mean, realistically.
That's why I'm thinking.
Realistically, why not ask, just look at it, there's not much space left.
Well, there's space, there's space. They'll squish it in, yeah.
But I'm more thinking of a concern.
A concern in the statement of facts or findings of fact? Findings of fact.
Just for future zoning boards, so just for future zoning boards to pick up on the fact that our board is concerned about it.
And that it appears to be maximized.
Rather than a condition of
Hitting the
approval,
maximum.
which I don't think is, it could be a finding of fact, or,
Okay, so you'll get that into the finding of facts that we're concerned about. They've hit the maximum. Okay, but I do want a condition of a recommended project condition, rather. I still like to state that all materials of the cabana be no chemical.
I agree with that.
And what else? No chemical. Is there another word I left out?
No treated.
No treated wood.
No treated wood. And what about the removal of the material on the, are we going to leave that to the planning board to
I
tell
don't
them?
think so, because it's not a visual.
With it there.
But it's not a visual impact, and I don't,
Sure.
It could deteriorate in the winter, bless you.
but that's to their detriment. That's not,
What?
I don't know.
I don't think that's to an environmental impact more than their detriment.
Hmm.
Their own detriment. It's like, It's like,
Well, if it deteriorates and it blows somewhere, who knows where it's going to end up? But
I get what you're saying, but like, how far do we go with it? Do we say they have to remove furniture, on a certain date on the?
well, it's in the stipulation that they have to remove other
Yeah,
things,
right.
except during the
Right,
season, and of May 15th to October 15th. And I don't know what the motivation of that is, other than that they could use
Well, I'm
these
just
year
saying,
round. And
I'm not comfortable with it. I don't think it doesn't, to me, it doesn't equate to what the STIP is referring to on that sales structure at the bar. So, because you don't see
So the
these
planning
things.
board will get
And-
this back,
And these things
right?
also roll up. They roll up to one side. They don't just sit there. You can see that on the plans even. So,
Okay. If the planning board handle
We can go out and
With the plan.
roll up the sailcloth.
When the storm comes.
Right.
So, I know that'll be running there then.
next we have Liz and Peter Mendelman at 60 Harborview Lane in Springs, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-57-6-3. Size and location is 14,171 square feet at 60 Harborview Lane in Springs. The description is to reconstruct 65 linear feet of bulkhead, 29 linear feet of return, 5-foot wide walkway in place with a 12-foot high increase and no dredge, and to dredge to a depth of 4 feet at mean low water within 10 feet of the bulkhead on a parcel of land adjacent to tidal wetlands and surface waters. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town Code and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is WF, waterfront AE flood zone, elevation 7, X flood zone, secret class type 2, and I think member 10.
Correct. I am recusing myself.
Vice chair is
Right,
recused.
that's right.
So-
I warmed up the bench for you out there.
This week.
Thank you. I did the report on this. Mendelman, with the hearing date was 8/20/24. The survey is dated 8/31/06. Drew Bennett designed the bulkhead, and his design is dated 11/3/23. And there's a protocol dated 8/7/23. This property is waterfront and in the waterfront zone, and it's also in HPOT. The applicant is seeking to reconstruct 65-foot of bulkhead, 29-foot of return, and a 5-foot walkway, and increasing the height to 12 inches. The bulkhead is in disrepair and in need of replacement. It also includes a permeable reactive barrier landward of the bulkhead. The bulkhead is to be replaced with vinyl sheathing and untreated timbers consistent with HPOD. There will be 40 cubic yards that is dredged seaward of the bulkhead. That 40 cubic yard is going to be used as backfill on the back part of the bulkhead. Okay, so I'll leave. So there was the discussion basically was, there wasn't a lot of discussion on this thing. This is basically an in place in kind replacement. The 12-inch increase is additional to that, but the planning department did not have an issue. To me, what it really comes down to, of course, I'm going to approve this application. What it comes down to is the building protocol. And we had discussion on the neighboring property. He has a bulkhead, but his bulkhead is actually in the water. There is wetlands shoreline that are landward of that bulkhead. So the care there is to do the construction from this property out, so not to disturb the neighboring property. And that was basically the concern that I had. With that, I think, again, this is an in-place, in-kind replacement with an increase. And I think this bulkhead over throughout history has been used for rentals and stuff like that. So the use is there for a long time. So with that, I think it does meet the NRSB standards, and I'm willing to grant this application. Ed, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, I thought this was a solid application. I thought it was presented well by Drew Bennett. I think we had questions, but I think that this is a replacement in kind. They did already had gone to the DEC and the town trustees for permits and had gotten approvals. The bulkhead repair and maintenance was obvious that it was needed and could be required. The major concern we had, and I think it was addressed immediately by Mr. Bennett, was the protocol. He said all access for the work to be done will be done from the water side. There'll be no damage done with equipment coming through properties or positioning itself in wetlands and therefore causing collateral damage. He said that the work would be done from the water, that the debris would be taken off onto a barge and into a dumpster. He said that there would be a protection in the water to keep debris from floating back out into the waterway. There was some discussion of what is the bulkhead, the elevation of it. He asked for 1 foot, and we went back and forth about whether or not it was 3.3 feet existing or 3 foot. There was some variation there. He said that it was largely at 3.3, and he'd like a 1 foot increase to 4.3 feet, which we agreed to, thought that was, and also the planning department agreed as well. And he said on the small return, as it comes back landward, that might increase another inch or two there as it followed the terrain. We didn't have a problem with any of that. I raised a question about the dredging, wondering if his estimate of 40 cubic yards was a good and accurate one. And he and Mr. Mendelman commented on what that protocol or what the technique would be in doing that dredging and how much was to be done, and that they both felt that they were well within 40 yards of what they'd be taking out. Brian felt that the building protocol was adequate. Brian's always sensitive about these shoreline improvements. He felt positive about the way in which the work was to be done, and the discussion of how to treat the neighboring bulkhead, which does have, as pointed out by the chair, wetlands now existing beyond on the landward side, that Mr. Bennett said there was a ladder connecting the two, and they would be carefully disconnected. They would do their work, and they would not do anything to disturb the neighbor's work because it wasn't their property. He didn't feel there was a need for it. All in all, a replacement in kind, something to look like was necessary. I thought that the presentation was solid, and I thought that the work that was presented by both the applicant's representative, Mr. Bennett, and the applicant himself was solid. So I'm more than willing to approve this application.
Thank you. Terry?
Yeah, I agree with my fellow board members. It was an interesting discussion as far as the bulkhead and the dredging. And there was some discussion, there was a concern, I guess, initially in the discussion about them going 4 feet down and dredging out. Mr. Mendelman did clarify that for us, that really, it's going to be 66 square yards. They're going to go down 18 or 19 inches out of that for a length of about 10 feet. So that's how they came up with the 44 cubic yards. Frank was very concerned about the wetland to the north. He did mention that I believe there's some good wetland vegetation that's there, and that it has naturalized over time. So those tidal wetlands, he was very concerned about protecting that vegetation and that there be no disturbance to it. After the discussion about the protocol as discussed by Mr. Mendelman and Drew Bennett, Brian was satisfied. He said that the protocol is reasonable and appropriate. So, the other discussion that Mr. Bennett came up, and so I guess we have to, one of the, number 7 of the recommended project conditions is the discussion about the 12-inch raise. And since there are various, the bulkhead has various heights now, ranging from elevate, well, about 3 feet to 3.3, and then all the way down to 0. So he asked us to reword that, I believe, to say that will not exceed 12 inches in any of the locations along that bulkhead, and change that, that thing. And
3 feet to
Brian was also okay with the 12-inch raise because of sea level rise. So I too am approving this application.
Thank you.
Okay. I agree with fellow board members. I am approving the application, and I echo that I believe it meets the standards of the NRSP. It's replacing an existing structure in place and mostly in kind. The only difference being is discussed the 12-inch increase in height, which does not create, I don't think, any visual issues or environmental impact. I agree with the classification. That's what's being done here is maintenance of pre-existing bulkhead. I note the town trustees have already approved the application. I believe that Drew Bennett described a very solid plan, and especially around the protocol. And I think the plan and the protocol aligns with the NRSP standards, as it will help ensure very minimal risk of environmental harm during the project. Nothing is being made bigger or extended, so I see no incremental impact. And with respect to the dredge, I believe that they could go down as far as 4 feet. They said they were only going to go down 18 inches, and they're reclaiming those soils to do really what's necessary. They have to fill in behind the bulkhead. I think in your field report, right, he showed the sinkhole and stuff like that. The one concern that came up was, this emerging wetlands in the area off where the return is. But I do take my lead from Brian Frank's view. He didn't have, he thought that the measures they'll take per the protocol in that area as well are, quote, reasonable and appropriate. All conditions were accepted. I agree with making the modification to one of those regarding what you talked about. And so all in approving the application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're good. Denise?
She's busy laughing.
She's, yeah.
She's watching TV on her phone.
Well, Samantha's getting her. I know the bench is nice and cool because the AC is on.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, another decision, that's our decisions for this evening. And another decisions, we have Sean Trudeau and Julia Stark Trudeau at 19 Merrills Road, Amagansett, Suffolk tax map number 300-106-2-48. And it's a request to reopen the record. Do we know what we're reopening the record for?
I don't either.
Okay, get it.
Yeah, they had, the record was for me, hoping for a certain amount of
Right.
time, submitted the stuff after the date. So
The stuff we already ruled on?
No, they had additional information.
So
They had to submit.
So does that mean we're
Wait,
opening the
wait,
record
wait.
and closing the record?
Yes.
Okay, so to receive requested information, and then we'll close the record.
But wait, I'm confused. We
wait,
denied
yeah,
the
I'm confused
application.
too.
Or not, we didn't, we
No,
we
no.
partially,
We made a decision
we
on the
made a decision,
application.
excuse me, right. So what are we,
So
That's right.
what came in after
Right.
that we were waiting for? We made the decision
We
on
made a
it.
decision on
Yeah,
this.
we made a decision.
Probably, I think, August 20th, didn't we?
I'm not quite sure why we're,
No, we
maybe we
definitely made a
table
decision.
this till I'm not,
Yeah, I want to know more before I,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm not-
reopen a
so
record
too.
of, and we did, no, we haven't
Yes,
done the
it was.
determination yet, right?
No.
Okay,
that's what I
right,
thought
but
we
still.
might get it
what the
tonight, but
point of reopening is, if we've already made a decision?
I think they submitted revised plans. If I remember it correctly, I think they revised plans that.
August 20th.
For the, porch at the back of the house. Where did I?
Yeah, but that would
But
be
the
a
record was closed
modification.
then.
I mean, if we made a
We made a
decision,
decision.
we made a decision, the process is to go forward with that, and they submit a modification.
Right.
I think they submitted plans and a request to open the record to accept those plans be considered.
No, I wouldn't consider
No,
that.
we, you know, this is getting to be a habit. Yeah.
I agree, I would not want to accept that.
We made a decision on it on August,
Yes, it's right here, I'm looking at it.
on August 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We,
I think this was after that, probably revised plans.
Well, the record was closed. I mean, clearly, we made a decision.
It's resubmitted. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I
mean-
think we should table it and get further clarification on it. All right, table. I don't know why it's there.
Well, we're still within our 60, when we made the decision on August 13th.
Yeah, but if
So
we've
it's a
made a
bit-
decision,
Accept different plans and review them. Where do you want them?
but based
But if it-
on what, though? I mean, the planning department hasn't made recommendations on that, it hasn't followed process
If
at
the record
all.
is closed and a decision was rendered,
Yeah.
you can't reopen the record and
Change the
try to argue
plan.
it.
The determination was never accepted.
Yeah, but,
What?
but that's not the
The
No, we didn't do a
determination has not
determination
been
yet.
written yet, but we made the
But a
decision.
determination was made.
well, that's
So what
not an
they're trying to
automatic
do
reopen.
is submit they obviously know what we decided to do. So they're submitting, that is not proper process. Proper process would, be they can withdraw their they can do many other things besides what they're doing.
So, where we,
I would not be in favor of,
I'm not 100% certain. I think waiting.
let's wait a week to get further clarification of whether this has happened, but, most likely, this could be denied as well. So,
Two bites
let's
at
wait a
every
week.
apple.
Let's table it for a week to get more clarification on it.
okay, that's fair.
We have the minutes of approval, August 20, 2024.
Okay, I did look at them. They look good to me. So I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, August 20th, 2024 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
second,
I concur.
I concur.
Sure.
A second.
my
Thank you.
pleasure.
We have two resolutions. One is April Taylor, 419 East Lake Drive, Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-6-2-19. Whose was this?
This was mine.
Okay, you want to give us,
Okay. And it's April Taylor.
One more time.
April Taylor. Okay. You'll remember this. This was an applicant who did many things without building permits.
Yes.
And then came to us to legalize these things. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of confusion. Ultimately, there is an agreement that everyone came to, and we did ultimately approve it. With the addition of a significant scenic easement. Probably all remember this well, so I'm not going to go any further on that. This was, the approval was regarding everything. Everything was approved by 4 members, the chair, the vice chair, Ed Johan and Jane Meering. I approved for everything except the natural resources permit and variance for the outdoor shower. I dissented on that, denied on that. So I make a motion to approve the resolution for April Taylor, tax map 300-6-2-19, as written.
I'll second it.
Concur.
I concur, thank you. Next, we have Stuart Leach and Anna Mejic at 71 Jacqueline Drive in Amagansett, Suffolk tax map number 300-174-2-32.
Thank you, that was in my district. Just for review, this was an application to establish a plunge pool with decking around the pool and extending to the rear of the house. And it was to address some conditions that had been created on the property by the applicant since they had purchased it. And we worked through removing there was a gravel walkway very close within jurisdiction of the wetlands, and there'll be more removal of other gravel areas in the back of the house. And I just want to reiterate that this property has extensive wetlands that are part of a broader system that impact the neighbors as well. And the house is pre-existing non-conforming to the wetland setback, and the closest point on the south side of the house is 3 feet to the wetlands. So, we had a lot of discussion and scrutinized it a lot. In terms of the decisions that we made, we were split a number of ways. So the chairman denied the entire application. Member Johan approved the whole application. And then Member Berger and I denied, we approved the pool, but we denied the decking on the west and north side of the house. So we did indicate that we understood there could be some decking around the pool, but we thought that it had, sort of reached a point where the property was already heavily developed. And then we had a discussion about increasing the buffer or the scenic easement. So that's where we were. Oh, and Member Severis, you did not vote on this. You were
I was
absent,
not
right?
present.
Right. So I'm gonna make a motion with respect to Stuart Leach and Anna Meach, 71 Jacqueline Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-174-02-32. The motion is to approve the determination as written.
Second.
I concur.
Abstain.
Concur, thank
And
you.
I actually am abstaining on my own motion because this came in at 7:00 last night. I didn't see it, and I was unfortunately out of pocket all day today. So it was a complicated, how I wasn't able to read the description of how we resolved the issue on the buffer and everything. So
Motion is approved.
thank-
Thank you, Ms. Vice Chair.
I make a motion to adjourn the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on September 10th at 8:03 PM.
I'll second.
concur.
Concur, thank you.